Hello and welcome to the Emmy Awards. I'm your host, Emmy Cardinale, and this is my podcast where I talk about what I've been watching or rewatching once a week. If this is the first episode of mine that you stumble upon and you enjoy it, please feel free to follow me wherever you listen to podcasts so you can get notified when I upload a new episode. This episode's probably going out sometime Thursday. I'm recording it Wednesday. I meant to record it last night, but I didn't, so that's where we're at. As the title suggests, this episode will be about Ginny Georgia Season 3 and my thoughts on Love Island Season 7 so far. This is not a structured recap of either show. I'm just going to be sharing my thoughts. So, we're debriefing about a show we both watched. So I will kind of explain who people are and plot points and stuff just in order for me to share my opinion. But it's not going to be an episode by episode recap. I have in the past done a deep dive on Ginny and Georgia Season 2, I believe. I don't know if I'm going to do one for Season 3. I am working on a Yellow Jackets one, a deep dive, so that one's my priority. Maybe if I have a bit of downtime, but I don't really anticipate having much downtime, so I don't know if I will be doing a deep dive of Ginny and Georgia Season 3. But I do want to share my thoughts because I did watch it. So I'm going to talk about that first, and then I'll share my thoughts on Love Island at the end. Chapters will be in the description, so if you don't watch Ginny and Georgia and you only want to hear my thoughts on Love Island, feel free to skip ahead. Thanks for tuning in. It means a lot. So, Ginny and Georgia Season 3. Ginny and Georgia is a really interesting show for me personally in terms of my relationship to it, because I do not think about Ginny and Georgia for years. It's not a show to me that I rewatch or that I really think about. Yellow Jackets, Gilmore Girls, my favorite shows, or honestly even shows that aren't my favorite shows, but I sometimes I hop back in, or I think about it, or I think about the characters. I'm anxiously awaiting a new season. Ginny and Georgia, I don't think about it for literally 2 years, and then a new season drops and I'll watch it all within a few days, and then I'm done. And then I'm genuinely I'm done, and I don't think about it until a new season releases. It's not a show that for me really. And this is no hate to the show at all. I think different people have different relationships to shows that they get. At least for me personally, I have shows that I get enthralled in. I'm really, really interested in. They live in my brain, right? I'm always thinking about them. I'm always thinking about the characters. I'm always thinking about hints. Yellow Jackets is a show I'm always thinking about. Something new will remind me of something that happened in season 1. It's a show that I'm constantly analyzing and close reading, jumping into the text, if you will. Ginny and Georgia is not that kind of show for me. I enjoy it when it's on. I don't really think about it for 2 years. I don't really have many expectations of where I wish a character would go or not, except when the new season's coming up, I'm I hope I see X, Y, and Z. But it's not a show for me that I have too much emotional connection to, that it upsets me either way. If something happens I don't like, obviously I care about the characters to the extent where when bad things happen, or I have feelings about the storylines. I'm not saying I don't care, but it's just not a show that for me personally really I get fixated on, I guess, in the way that I do for other shows. So that's been really interesting because I really hadn't thought about Ginny and Georgia for years, and then I thought about it quite a bit when I was watching it, and it's been about. I'm recording this Wednesday. This will be out Thursday. The season premiered Wednesday night, Thursday at midnight. So I guess it's been a week since the season came out, ish. In my mind, it came out on a Friday because last week was weird for me. I worked. I normally have Wednesdays and Thursdays off, but I worked Thursday last week, so my schedule's been all out of whack. Anyways, so I really hadn't thought about Ginny and Georgia for years. I didn't remember much of the season 2 storylines. Never rewatched seasons 1 or 2. I watched season 1 when it came out, and then I watched season 2 when it came out, and that's really. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. I don't get Ginny and Georgia edits. I don't and again, no hate to the show. Anyways, that's just my disclaimer about my relationship with Ginny and Georgia, because I have been watching it from the beginning. I do enjoy it, but it's just not a show for me that I've ever had a particularly emotional connection to. Interestingly enough, I found myself more than in seasons past really connecting emotionally to the characters this season in ways I hadn't before. Specifically Marcus's depression. Also, if you hear background noise, my foster kittens, I think, are eating right now. What can you do? Anyways, so Marcus specifically is a character I always really enjoyed, And his depression storyline in season 2, obviously, it was more towards the end of season 2 from my recollection. So it's like, it wasn't like his main thing in season 2. Like, I think it followed throughout. But like, Marcus's main storyline this season was about like navigating his mental health. And that was really compelling to me. I really liked the Max episode where we hear her internal dialogue and the ways that she's also struggling, but it presents differently for her than it does Marcus. I found both of them very relatable in their own ways. I had a lot of things I enjoyed about the season, a lot of things I didn't enjoy. Okay, so this is kind of going to be like my U coverage where I'm just kind of ramble about the season and the way it went and like things I liked, things I didn't. So feel free to, if you agree with me or disagree with me, comment your thoughts down below on what you thought about Ginny and Georgia season 3. So season 2 ended with Georgia getting arrested, right, for the murder of Cynthia's husband, whose name I do not remember. He was like dying in hospice care and she killed him. For what reason? Who knows? I don't love on its face the idea of Georgia after all, because Georgia has killed many people. I didn't find it super compelling at first, and I don't really know still how I feel about it. I'm like torn about the idea of everything that Georgia did. The thing that finally got her was like this killing she did in her mind as an act of kindness. I think it's an interesting maybe idea of like when you have that relationship with death, right? You begin to like Georgia very much like has like a weird godlike perception. I feel like, and maybe this isn't true and maybe there's a psychological phenomenon, I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me if psychologically, if you've killed people, you begin to think you have like an authority on like life and death that you just frankly don't have, right? Like, I don't know, and I'm sure it's not true for everybody. And it's also very interesting because Georgia's relationship with killing people before this man, it was very different. She had killed to protect, she'd killed in defense, and often, obviously, like, was Kenny, her husband, was he like an imminent, it's not like she killed him in self-defense, but in her mind, she killed him to protect Ginny and to protect their family, right? So it's a very different relationship she had with the act of killing that she had with this man. It was like he was suffering and she did it, like, it was like a different thing. So it was weird to me. Maybe I'm sure maybe not, but if it was done on purpose, I do think that's kind of interesting of like that's where she devolved to. I would really like to see for Georgia's for season 4, because I didn't remember this, but when they got picked up for season 3, they also got picked up for season 4. So at least we know that there is a season 4 happening. And the creator of the show, like her TikTok came up on my FYP, and she said they're already halfway done with the writer's room for season 4. So because they got picked up 2 seasons in a row, they're ahead in the process. Like, it's not going to take as long as it did to get in between seasons, because when the last couple seasons released, they had to wait like 30 days to see the numbers before Netflix approved their, like, if it was going to be picked up or not. So they had to wait until they knew they were picked up to start writing. But since they already know they're picked up, they started writing. So they're already like halfway through the writer's room. So production will probably start sooner than it did. Also, the strike delayed things. Anyways, so we do know season 4 is coming. What I would like to see for Georgia in season 4, like, not to jump ahead, but I'll go through like her arc this season. But I think honestly, be a spoiler if you haven't seen the season, it ends with Georgia's cleared. She's not going to prison or anything. Obviously, there's a journey that got her there. I'll get into it in a second. But what I would really love to see for Georgia in season 4, sorry, I'm jumping all over the place, is I really would like to see Georgia not kill people. Just because I think it would be very interesting narratively if this was like a turning point for Georgia, right? Like, she devolved, she begun to think that she had control over life and death in a way that wasn't healthy or like good. And it screwed her over. This act in her mind of kindness that she did is what got her. I hope that that's a turning point for Georgia, and she genuinely is like that's what I would like to see for Georgia. That like this genuinely, because I do think Georgia's character is interesting in the reason she killed people and right, and her relationship to violence and defense and everything. And even from the first season, we see her telling her son Austin, you catch more bees with honey, but you catch more flies with honey, but if you get a bee sting first or something. So there's like there's a relationship, a survival instinct she has of like what violence means to her and killing means to her, that I think it would be interesting if we see like a post murderous Georgia character arc for her. Like that's what I'm interested in for Georgia. Anyways, she's going to prison. She gets out on house arrest, and narratively I really hated that, to be honest. Like the house arrest arc, I think that they managed to have some interesting moments of like her navigating that, but it honestly, it got kind of boring to me of like, this is the only setting she's able to be in until like the end of the season. It was a little bit like, I feel like it killed the momentum a lot. I will say the moment that I liked, I think this was an interesting shift. Basically, Georgia, she's on house arrest. Her lawyer, who Paul hired, her husband, because they got married and she got arrested at her wedding, he is like, it's fine, we're gonna... The narrative that they're gonna try to sell is that it was an accident. This man rolled over and he suffocated on accident, right? Because his autopsy said he suffocated. Georgia was in the room with him, so they're like, she suffocated him. So the narrative that they're gonna go with is he died it was an accident. But what ends up happening is that they bring up the opposition, the defense, whatever, I don't know lawyer terms. They bring up Georgia's past and they're like, we think she's a serial killer. So then obviously that blows up. She gets media attention. Ginny and Austin eventually get taken away from her. Like there's custody battles. That I think added an interesting layer because there was like a separation between Ginny and Georgia where they couldn't talk to each other in the same way. And you know what's interesting? In my last episode, I talked about like my predictions and what I would hope. And interestingly enough, I think somewhat we got it. Maybe not in the exact way that I anticipated, just because their relationship was so colored by the murder the murder trial, that all of the mother-daughter conflict, it was like, obviously it all had to do with that. So Ginny, interestingly enough, took on a more like defensive role of her mom in a way she hadn't. Like I really liked Ginny and Georgia's dynamic this season of like Ginny very much, and there's a voiceover, and I don't remember what episode, where she's like, I always wanted other adults to see my mother the way that I did, but now they are, and I like, and like that's, it's not, you know, like that was interesting to me, where she was like, I always saw this side of my mom and I wanted other people to see it, but like now they're seeing it and they're not viewing it the same way that I do. Like it's interesting to me the ways that Ginny changed this season in terms of her relationship with her mother. Very much like she knows her mother's a killer, but from the beginning she's like, my mom didn't kill the guy, she put on a united front. Austin told Ginny on the day of the wedding that he knows, he was there, he saw her kill Gil. That's his name, Gil. Austin witnessed his mother doing that. So I think Ginny from the, like, honestly, I wonder how different things would be if Austin hadn't seen, like how much that played a role, because it feels like Ginny went into a similar mode that Georgia goes into of like, I need to protect Austin in the way that Georgia very much is like, I need to protect my children. Anyways, I think that moment for Georgia, there was a moment, again, I don't remember what episode because I didn't take structured notes. I'm just kind of rambling about debriefing of the season after watching all of it. It's in one of the early episodes where when Ginny tells Georgia that Austin saw her kill Gil, that she's like, I failed. I didn't do it. I didn't protect you guys. I'm the danger. And I liked that moment. I wanted that kind of moment from Georgia. And I think it was interesting that as soon as Georgia was able to acknowledge, like, I failed, I didn't protect you, I brought danger into our lives when I wanted the opposite for you. I wanted you to never have the kind of life I had. And I ended up, like, you know, I repeated the patterns in a certain way. Not in the exact way, but, like, you know, I liked that moment, and I thought it was interesting, and I enjoyed that in that moment, that Ginny is, like hearing that from her mother, validating that it's like, not all she needed to hear, but, like, it was a turning point, I think, for Ginny, too, where it's, like, and I do think that's huge. I do think in a relationship, like, sometimes change obviously is really important, but I think sometimes even just acknowledging that there's something you did wrong is a huge deal. And I think really, I like that we got that moment from Georgia. Honestly, for me, a lot of the momentum of the season was just killed by her being on house arrest, because it was like she was only interacting with really like the same people. Eventually, like, things change a little bit when I really liked the Joe Georgia dynamic. I've been a fan of the Joe Georgia dynamic from the beginning. I think they have such an interesting relationship, and I really like the way that he like showed up for her, because basically at the beginning of the season, Paul is standing by her. There's a moment where I don't know what his campaign manager, I don't know, Paul's campaign manager or some guy who works for him who was friends with Georgia and then started dating the private investigator, not knowing he was a private investigator. The private investigator started dating this friend and coworker of Georgia's, in order to get close to them, and then he ended up, anyways, his name's Nick. Nick tells, Paul's like, tell me everything you think you know about my wife. Nick obviously tells him everything he knows. And there's a moment where, like, Paul very much, there's a shift in him, right? But he's still very much for Ginny, for Austin, I think honestly for appearances, because he made a commitment. He's not leaving Georgia's side. When the murder trial blows up and it's like she's a serial killer, he kind of abandons her. Then Ginny and Austin get taken away then. So it's like Georgia's left alone. Around this time, or right before, but Joe is not talking to her. I mean, it's not like she can go to Blue Farm and like hound him, and he's been avoiding her. But before the murder trial really, it's like right before it starts, it's like when jury selection happens, because there's an interesting scene where basically this was a storyline last season, but there's like, in the small town they live, there's like no big chains. It's like in the law, and some people are pushing for the law to change, right? Joe owns Blue Farm. He's obviously not happy about this. And Georgia has this idea, because she works at the mayor's office, which is how she started dating the mayor, and then eventually married him. I was about to say murdered. Ooh, she did not murder Paul, to be clear. So anyways, she has this idea to do like a lawn fest where each house on their street is paired with a small business. This way she can kind of, schmooze with the people, but she doesn't have to leave her house because she has an ankle monitor. She can't leave. So they have this event, and it's right before jury selection. So it's right before Paul like decides to abandon her, but he already knows a bunch of stuff about her, so he's already acting kind of weird around her. So Joe doesn't come. She pairs up their house with Blue Farm so Joe can come. He doesn't come, but eventually he does when they're packing up, and they have a moment where he's like, I think of you as more than a friend. Like, it's really hard for me. Then Joe abandons her, or Paul abandons her, and then Joe and her kind of, he shows up for her. He's more there for her, and I really like the way that transpired. But anyways, I got on a tangent. But before jury selection, I thought this was super interesting. She, at this lawn fest, she eavesdrops and she learns things about the different people in the town. So then when they're doing jury selection, she can like tell her lawyer, like, this is what I know about this person, so they can kind of like dismiss people who would be more harsh on her, or pick people who would maybe be more lenient. So I like that. I like the ways that we see Georgia, like those moments where like despite the house arrest, she pushed through, and she like, that was really interesting to me. But it was like the majority of it, like there was a whole too much time, in my opinion, spent on like her spying on her neighbor and then being like, I need him, he's wearing the wrong shirt for the date, he's never gonna get a date. I didn't give a fuck. I found that boring, and I didn't like that. I really didn't like that. Like the house arrest stuff, there were moments it was interesting, but a lot of it just felt like it's stifled, and they were trying to be like, well, she's on house arrest, how are we going to... And it was just like not super interesting to me. I don't know. That was my 2 cents. I did like the lawn fest, her eavesdropping, using that intel whole thing. That was really interesting to me. I did enjoy that. And then obviously it segues into her relationship with Joe. Joe kind of starts coming over when she's left all alone. She doesn't have Austin. She doesn't have Ginny, and Paul's left her. So she's really just like all alone in her house. And Joe kind of strikes up a friendship. She then tries to win Paul back, because at this point she still has the lawyer, right, that Paul's paying for. And so she tries to get Paul back, because the lawyer's like, hey, it looks really bad that Paul's not supporting you in court. So she lies to Paul that she is pregnant, and then he comes back, and then he realizes that she's lying about being pregnant, and he punches a wall behind her and leaves. And then she loses her lawyer. The way that Georgia lies about being pregnant is that a whole other plot line. Ginny and Marcus are not together. They broke up because he is depressed. Early on in the season, there's a dance, and he's there, and they kiss. Like, it's weird between them, right? But they kiss, and then after he's like, I don't love you, because he doesn't remember kissing her. He was too drunk. He doesn't remember kissing her. She's like, and he's like, I don't love you. And she's like, don't say that unless you don't really mean it. And he's like, I mean it. I don't love you. Obviously, he doesn't mean it. Max overhears, and Max is like, what was that about? And he's like, I love her, but I can't even be with myself. How can I be with her? I really liked Marcus's arc this season because I think, and I don't know, because I've never been in a relationship, but I do have depression, and I do even just struggle in my non-romantic relationships, navigating how to, I don't know, it's hard enough when you're depressed and you're going through your own things to then navigate like a relationship, because you're not your best self, and you're not like it. I understood where he was coming from, and I think back to my time in college when I was like really, really struggling with my depression. Not that I don't now, but it's different than it was. And I definitely was not like a good friend or good, like I wasn't able to be there for the people in my life. So I understand where Marcus is coming from. But anyways, after that, she starts dating this guy in her poetry class, and she gets pregnant. She has an abortion. That guy was so annoying. I didn't like him. Okay, like he was charming in moments. I liked the moment where he takes her to a science museum. Like he's charming. He wasn't Marcus and Ginny, it's so interesting to me because I don't possibly see a way that they're not meant to be together, because even this season when they weren't together, like their relationship was so beautiful. Like I love the Marcus and Ginny dynamic. I think it's one of my favorite like young teen relationships I've seen on a TV show in a while. Like the way they care about each other, and the way that they each go through their own things, and it like I don't know. I think they have their moments, but overwhelmingly, like the conflict they have is never about like somebody hurting the other person. Like the biggest conflict they had of like really like not being together well was in the beginning, like season 1 when they weren't together. Like Ginny had a boyfriend, but she liked Marcus. Like that was really, in my opinion, like the most toxic or unhealthy their relationship has been, in terms of like the way they show up for each other. Most of the times, like their conflict has been like they're each individually struggling, and that sometimes makes a relationship hard. But it's like even when Ginny has her abortion, Georgia's still on house arrest, so she can't be there for her, and Marcus is there for her, and they just have like really sweet moments where like Marcus is just so sweet. I love his character. I really do. Like their dynamic really warms my heart, because there's such a like love and care for each other there. That is at the basis of everything, where even when they're not romantic, it's like I care about you more than I'm insecure or I'm upset, or personally it hurts me to see you with other people. I care about you more than any personal feeling I'm having about you being with another guy. And then, like their dynamic is so sweet to me in a way that I really enjoy, and I really loved this season, the way that they were able to be there for each other, and like the moments, like I don't know, I love their relationship. I really do. But anyways, because Ginny gets pregnant, there's a pregnancy test, and Georgia pretends that's hers. And George actually realizes, or not George, sorry, Paul. He played a character named George in Hard Dixie. But Paul realizes, because him and Zion have like beer, and Zion's like what Ginny was going through, and then he's like, what did Ginny go through? And when Zion tells Paul that Ginny was pregnant, he like puts it together that the pregnancy test was probably Ginny's, and Georgia's not actually pregnant. So that blows up. Anyways, the Ginny getting pregnant storyline, I did enjoy. I did appreciate it, because I think, and the actors have talked about this in an interview I watched, but about how like for each of these women have made their own decision, and it was right for them, and it's like there's space for both of them. Like I thought that was really beautiful, because I think sometimes in media specifically, I don't know in real life, maybe in real life this is true as well, but I don't know any like teen moms in my personal life. So like this is just based off of like stories. Sometimes in, like I think of Degrassi, and the reason I think of Degrassi is because like half of this cast was on Degrassi. But anyways, I think of Degrassi, and like when Manny gets pregnant in Degrassi, Emma, her best friend, is obviously really against the idea of, or maybe not obviously, but her friend Emma's like very against the idea of Manny getting an abortion, because Emma is like the result of a teen pregnancy. Her mom got pregnant in the original Degrassi, because Degrassi Next Generation is like technically a spinoff. Anyways, her mom got pregnant and then kept her, and that's how the spinoff started. Was like, so sometimes in media there is like a hesitancy that either a teen mom has or the child of a teen mom has about like the idea of having an abortion, because it's like, well, if my mom had an abortion, I wouldn't exist. So I thought that was interesting, of like that moment where Ginny goes to Georgia and she's like, I can't make this decision for you. It was right for me. It was a sacrifice. Like, my whole life became about you, and it was good for me, and it was what needed to happen for me, and I wouldn't change it, but like, you need to make this. And Ginny's like, I don't think I can have this baby, and I'm really sorry. And Georgia's like, no, that's completely okay. That's completely okay too. And I thought that was really beautiful, of like, it was right for Georgia, and like, it shaped Georgia's life and she wouldn't change it, and her relationship with her kids is so personal. But also, that doesn't mean, like, I liked that. I liked that moment. And I think, honestly, and again, it's not like Georgia's life was difficult for reasons beyond the fact that she was just a single mom, but it obviously complicated things because she had a difficult home life. And like, I think there's a reality to, even if you have like the best case scenario where you have a lot of familial support, you're able to raise your children while also like even for the best of the situations where like somebody is a teen parent and they keep their child, even in those situations, it is extremely difficult to have a child, let alone have a child when you still are one. And I think while not all of Ginny and Georgia's conflict with like their difficulties within each other come from that dynamic within itself, there are layers to that dynamic that made it more complicated. And I think it was like, I like that moment. I do think, I even think about in Gilmore Girls, the creator of Gilmore Girls had always planned for the last 4 words of Gilmore Girls to be, Mom, yeah, I'm pregnant, of Rory becoming pregnant and, everything starting over. Not starting over, but like, like a full circle moment of like the core of this show is about a teen mom and her relationship with her daughter, and the ways that their closeness in age complicates things, everything, and it's the Gilmore Girls. That's the core of their relationship. And I think that's interesting. Obviously, the show, if you know the lore of Gilmore Girls, the last season, the creators of the show were not on it, so it ended in a way that they didn't intend. And then in the revival, they ended it that way. And obviously, it was a different tone than if Rory had ended, like, let's say the original, like, she had ended pregnant right after college. Like, let's say they got us, like, I don't know, honestly, because some shows, like Yellow Jackets, the creators have talked about how they had like a 5-season plan from the beginning, right? Like, general arc of the narrative. I don't know if Gilmore Girls had like we're gonna end in season 8 and like it's gonna end. Like, I don't know if like when they decided that, if they had the idea that Rory would be pregnant like right out of college. Like, I don't know if when they did, like, they had that idea for the last 4 words in their mind, it was like Rory graduates and then she is pregnant immediately after. Like, I don't know, but I do imagine that they didn't think they were gonna go on for like 10 more seasons and then Rory would be pregnant at 32. Like, obviously I do think the general tone changed of like Rory is pregnant at 32 versus if, not that obviously like it still was a full circle moment. It was still a full circle moment in the like, now Rory's embarking on motherhood when, the core of this show was about the mother-daughter relationship. But I just think that there is, when a show is about motherhood, and specifically young motherhood, teen motherhood, that then relationship a child has with then like being pregnant and like making the decision to start it over or not. So I do think that is like obviously very interesting, and I like the way it happened, and I think it will deepen. And I think the moment it happened was actually like really interesting, because it's not like Ginny got pregnant with like Marcus, who like Georgia knew. It was like they had drifted in a way that wasn't entirely like either of their fault, because Ginny wasn't living with Georgia, right? And she also like wasn't talking to her because Georgia tried to reach her at some point, and she was like, I can't, I'm not going to talk to you because it might mess up the custody battle. So like their relationship was already in an interesting place where Ginny's perception of her mom, and then like because she had been taken away from her mom in a moment she like didn't want, like she wanted to be there for her mom. It was really interesting the way I think it's going to deepen their relationship. Sorry, I lost my train of thought, but I thought the moment that it happened was really interesting because Ginny and George's relationship was like in a different spot than normal. Ginny had like a new love and appreciation for her mom and like loyalty and like defensiveness of her mom she hadn't had in a while. And then obviously their relationship deepened with like this moment of Georgia understanding where Ginny was coming from. I think a lot of their issues, not all of them, but there's like a very fundamental lack of understanding I think that Georgia has had of Ginny and like what Ginny's gone through and everything that I feel like we finally got a moment. Like this season was a big turning point for that, where I feel like there was something that they fully both understood each other in, you know, in a way that I don't feel like they have many things. Like they've lived very different lives that I think sometimes it's been hard to see each other, and I think they fully saw each other in the moment in a way that I think is going to like deepen their relationship. And like the whole like the timing of it, you know, of like the fact that they had this distance. Ginny wasn't talking to her mom and that she desperately needed her mom, and then when she finally did see her mom was like, this is your decision. I understand the position you're in, and because I understand the position you're in, I understand that you need to make this decision for yourself. That was really interesting to me, and I really liked that moment, and that I do think will be a turning point. What else did I want to talk about with Ginny and Georgia? I want to talk about Meng for a second. So I found this confusing, and maybe I need to rewatch season 2. But like it starts off, and it seems like a lot of them just like have this beef with Max that I don't remember them having. Like I remember there being tension between Ginny and Max after the whole Marcus thing, but then it's like, why are the rest of them like? I thought they fixed it. There's like a weird, and I know Abby and Ginny started having like a closer relationship because they connected with each other on things that Abby didn't have with Max, and also like about like their parents dating new people, right? That was something that Abby needed support in, that only Ginny in their friend group understood, like the reality of having like divorced parents who then go on to like date people. Not that Ginny's parents were ever married, but like, you know, broken up parents who then go on to date other people, and what it's like meeting your dad's new girlfriend. And they bonded over these things on the tail end of like Max kind of shunning both Abby and Ginny and everything. So like I understand the Abby Ginny dynamic getting closer and them bonding, and I understand that. I think it got really confusing to me because Nora was like, from the beginning, I think Ginny's mom is a murderer, and Max was like, we need to be there for Ginny, we need to be there for Ginny. I don't think George is a murderer. I don't think George is a murderer. And Ginny wasn't really, you know, like being there for Max in the same, or like, you know, acknowledging Max, right, in that same way. And then eventually there's like a moment where Nora, Abby, and Ginny kind of have their own thing going on. And that was really confusing to me. I really hated that because then they started excluding Max. And I'm like, Ginny, why the fuck are you? I understand maybe a loyalty to Abby. Like you guys connected, you understood each other in a way. I get that. I don't understand the weird, like, Nora's there too now, and you're, like, all aligned together, and then fuck Max. Like, I didn't understand the weird shift between them, and that really upset me. Like, I felt really bad for Max, because I'm like, Max wanted to be there. Like, she tried, so she wanted to be that friend, and she wasn't able to. It made me really sad. I lost my train of thought, and I took an unintended, like, 30-minute break, so I don't really remember where I left off, or if there's anything else I wanted to. I think I was talking about Meng. Let me talk about what I hope for season 4. So season 3 ends with, there's a cliffhanger of, like, George is pregnant. We don't see, like, it's not, like, confirmed that she's pregnant. She's drinking milk. It could be, like, that episode of Gilmore Girls where Lorelai eats an apple and she's like, I'm pregnant, but she wasn't actually. I don't think so. I think George is probably actually pregnant. I hope it's with Joe, because she did sleep with Joe and Paul around that time, so hopefully it's Joe. Joe's baby. I'm done with Paul. I don't like Paul. I had no issue with Paul, but I just also did not really care for their relationship. Like, honestly, of all the ships, I would have been more interested in her and Zion, or her and Joe. Like, Georgia and Joe is my number one ship for her. But I would have been, I think it would be, like, I'd be fine with Zion too, because they have a history. Paul, I just don't feel like really understands or knows her. And I was proved right this season, because I'm like, I mean, she didn't feel safe to tell him everything. And then when he did learn everything, he ran. Joe didn't. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Paul for, like, not wanting to be with somebody, knowing everything. Like, whatever. I didn't like the way he handled things, the abandoning her. It's like, you made a commitment, but you didn't actually. She's pregnant. It's like, I don't know, the punching the wall. I'm over Paul. So I hope it's Joe's baby. I hope Meng... Oh my God, I forgot to mention this, but Abby has like a queer storyline. I think I mentioned in my podcast last week that in my mind I ship Abby and Max. They did not happen, but Abby is dating, like, okay, the first moment that Abby had like a moment was weird. Like, Samantha, who I never really liked that character, but Samantha, like, has been dealing with some eating disorder things, and Abby picks up on it because Abby also has been dealing with some eating disorder things. So she, like, tries to show Samantha that she has tape on her legs, but Samantha thinks that she's hitting on her, so then they, like, kiss and have like a weird moment. I did not like that moment. But then eventually Abby kind of starts a thing with her tutor, who is also one of Marcus's like skater friends, Tris. I really like this relationship, and I do think hopefully they're building for Abby and Max to be a thing. That's what I would hope. But I'm really glad that Abby is a canon girl kisser. Love her. She's one of my favorite characters, although it did make me sad. The way they treated Max and the way Abby specifically treated Max did make me sad. So Abby's a little bit on my shit list because it's like, what did Max do? Like, the thing is, I see both sides in the Abby-Max tension, specifically with Abby not telling Max about Tris, because I understand I understand the hesitation that Abby has about, like, she knows Max and she knows Max is going to be like, this is so cool. Like, I finally have somebody in my friend group who understands that, like, we could connect on this, like, queer, non-straight thing. Like, all of her friends are straight. I understand that impulse of Max's of, like, this is so cool. I finally have somebody who maybe understands this. And I also understand Abby not wanting it to be a big deal, because I kind of teeter on in between both those ideas of, like, sexuality. I don't really have a label, and I tried for many years to be like, what am I? Because I wanted to have, like, a group, right? And then I realized that for myself personally, I think it's great when people have labels and are like, and I do very much identify with, like, the LGBT community. Like, I do, like, but I understand that, like, I understand that it's deeply personal feeling, and I don't really want to make it a big deal or talk about it, or, like, I like somebody. I don't want to dissect what that necessarily means about who I am, my identity, you know, because it's a very personal thing to have feelings for somebody and develop feelings for somebody, and also that be, like, a person who maybe you didn't think you'd be attracted to, and then also, like, what that says about you and who you are, and, like, you know, like, identity is very difficult. I think there are people who are like, I'm gay, and, like, they're very comfortable with that identity, and then there are people who are like, I like who I like, and I don't know what that says about me, you know. Like, there's a scene in The Sex Lives of College Girls where Layden's like, I don't want my identity to be about who I sleep with. Like, I feel like there's a very personal relationship people have with sexuality, especially when you're navigating that and you're figuring it out, of, like, I know who I like and I'm excited about this, but I don't want to dive into, like, who I am, what this says about who I am as a person, if this has to change, because identity can be a very personal thing. And so I understand both perspectives, especially when you're young, and Abby's had such a, like, tense relationship with, like, liking people and not liking people, and, like, she hooks up with Press, but, like, she doesn't like him, and, like, you know, it's a new experience for Abby to like somebody and also like them romantically. So I understand both sides, because I understand why Max wants to connect in this way, and I also understand why for Abby maybe it's not, especially because Abby and Max's relationship is really tense, of, like, Abby needed Max and Max wasn't there, and now Max wants to be there, and Abby's like, I don't want you to be here. I don't want you to be here. I don't want this to be a thing. I want this to be mine for now, right? So I understand both sides. I do think they excluded Max unfairly, and, like, oh my God, that scene in the end of this, like, season where Max is like, we grew apart to Ginny, and Ginny's like, Ginny's like, we grew apart to Max, and maybe that's okay, and Max is like, I don't want that to be okay. That was sad to me. That was sad. I don't know. I hope. Sorry about all the background noise. My foster kittens are playing right now. But anyways, so, like, I don't know. I wish better for Max. I was an Abby Max truther, and I do think there's a way that they can maybe handle it. But right now I'm like, I don't want Abby Max soon. I need them to flesh it out more. Like, I wouldn't want it to, I'm glad that it didn't happen now, because I think Abby and Max's relationship on its own is tense right now in a way that I'd really want to see be romantic. So we'll see how that goes in season 4. I started talking about this, but I didn't end up diving deep into it because I went on a few tangents. But like, Ginny very much at some point takes, when Joe abandons, or not Joe, when Paul abandons Georgia, and it seems like, and there's a point where Georgia runs away and she kind of like, and then she comes back, she turns herself in and she's in prison. I think this is a moment for Ginny when she's like, no, like I cannot lose my mom. And so there's an interesting shift. If you hear this noise in the background, that's my foster kitten's toy. I removed it from him. He has other toys. Hopefully he'll stop making so much noise. But anyways, there's an interesting shift in Ginny. Like, I'm excited to see where the Ginny and Georgia dynamic goes, because I think there was that turning point where like they connected on something and they saw each other. And I feel like in being validated by her mom and also understanding a little bit of what her mom like went through and then making a different decision for herself. And then also kind of taking on a role of like, I need to protect my mom the way she protected me. It was an interesting shift where basically Georgia was like resigned. Originally the team, her lawyer, like the narrative they were going to sell was that it was an accident. But the forensics proved that like he was suffocated. Like it would be very unlikely for him to like roll onto the pillow and die in that way, whatever. So they need another suspect, and Ginny convinces Austin to say that Gil was there and Gil did it. So Gil goes to prison, which, you know what, good. He kind of deserves it. Like he's a dangerous man. I don't really care. He hurts Ginny at some point, because basically when Georgia loses custody, Austin and Ginny go to their like respective fathers' houses. So Ginny's with Zion, but Austin is with Gil. And then Ginny has a moment where she's like, he's abusive to her dad, and her dad didn't know. And then Gil threatens Ginny and like hurts her physically. Anyways, so Gil ends up taking the fall, which I don't really care, and Georgia's free, and then they're starting fresh, right? But Georgia's pregnant, so I think that's where we leave off in season 4. If I forgot anything, I'm sorry. Host for season 4, the pregnancy, obviously, I think that'll change things. If she is actually pregnant, who knows what will happen with Paul now. Paul, interestingly enough, after he publicly like distanced himself from Georgia, he also like decided to back the like big business bill or whatever the fuck it was called. So random. It's like, okay, you can stand by your principles and be like, why are those two things connected? It felt like he was doing it to spite Joe, but I don't think he was. I feel like he just politically, he was like, I'm unpopular, I need to pivot. But like, it feels like pivoting to that was stupid to me personally. But anyways, that's just my 2 cents on that. But I really like the way Joe and Georgia's relationship happened throughout like all 3 seasons, but I really like the progression this season. There was a moment where he was like, you could have told them that I was having an affair with Cynthia, like that would have helped your case. I could have been a suspect. And Georgia was like, I wouldn't do that to you. Like they have a very, I love their relationship. I'm a Joe Georgia fan. I think they're meant to be. I love them. I love Ginny and Marcus's relationship as well. I think there's really no other person for her in this. She could date somebody else. I would want a gay storyline for Ginny before she maybe ends up back with Marcus, but maybe not everybody needs to be gay in the show. Would I prefer that? Yeah. Nora, interestingly, there was the reason they all took pregnancy tests because they're having a Mang dinner, which is like the first time they're all together, and Nora's like, I think I might be pregnant, like I'm super late. They all take pregnancy tests and they're all negative except Ginny, but she lies that it's negative, but that's how we find out she's pregnant. And Nora, interestingly enough, she's not pregnant, but she's been dealing with some health stuff, and she's adopted, so she doesn't have access to her medical records, like her family medical history, so like she has no idea what's going on. I liked that. It was very brief, but if we get more of that next season, I think that would be really interesting, because I do think that is a common thing for adoption, is like you lose access to your biological history, which is like very important for health stuff. So it was minor, but I like that detail. Like there were minor things, like Abby's ED was like talked about. Like I liked the little moments. Something I really like about Ginny and Georgia is that a lot of the characters interact. So Ginny's friends, like Max's theater friends, interact with, like Ginny has like a group of like there's like the black kids in school. That sounds weird, but like no, there's like a group of like in season 1, Ginny's kind of like, you know, there are black kids at the school who try to be like, you can join a group, and she obviously like the whole I think she struggles to like where she fits in right between boxes, but she's friends with them, and then they also interact with Max because some of them are in theater. Like there's a lot of overlap of like, it's not like just Mang and then just Ginny's other friends. Like everybody kind of interacts in a way that I really enjoy. Even like Joe interacts with like Paul and Zion, and like Paul and Zion. And like there's a lot of, it's not like groups. Everybody kind of interacts with everybody in a way that I really enjoyed. But yeah, those are my main thoughts about Ginny Georgia season 3. Apologies if I forgot stuff. I took a break. But I think I got everything that I wanted to talk about. Justice for Max. I want more Mang. There wasn't enough Mang this season. It was like depressing me. Like Mang was fractured. We need to unify Mang. I'm excited to see where Ginny and Georgia's dynamic goes forward. I'm glad that she's not on house arrest. I really hated that plot device. There were a few moments I liked. Like I thought it was compelling that Ginny found out she was pregnant in a moment where she wasn't with her mom, and she kind of had to like struggle to reach her mom, because it created a sense of like Ginny is really alone with this decision in a way that Georgia also understood. So then when she finally did have somebody, like I liked that. I thought it added a weight to that moment that was really interesting. And like the whole lawn fest was really interesting. I wish that she had been on house arrest, like toward, like I don't know, the timing, like the pacing I didn't love. I would have liked if the house arrest or the trial or that stuff like ended a little bit sooner, and then maybe we got a little bit more fallout of like, but I guess they wanted to end with like Georgia being pregnant or something. So I don't know. But I did enjoy the season. I don't have anything else to say about Ginny and Georgia, but maybe I'll do a deep dive if there's some time off. I don't think I'm going to have much, honestly, because Bachelor in Paradise starts, and then Big Brother starts, and I'm still working on the Yellow Jackets deep dive, so I don't really anticipate doing a Ginny and Georgia season 3 deep dive. But maybe if I feel like it, maybe if the Yellow Jackets one goes well, I'll do it. But the next show I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to talk about this very briefly, honestly, and again, this is not a structured recap, but I've been watching Love Island season 7. This is my first season of Love Island. I have seen clips, and I do know a lot of like the stuff that happened in season 6 because I am following. Like I know the people from, but this is my first season watching like the episodes. It's airing in real time, which I love. I love that about Big Brother. I think that's really compelling about Love Island. What are my people I like and people I don't really love any of the men. I have to be honest. I like Ace as like a character on TV. I know he's not a character, but like I find him interesting in what he adds to the TV, but I don't really know if I don't know if I like him. You know what I mean? Like I like people, sometimes I like people in terms of like what they're providing for entertainment, but I don't really know if I like them, like I stan them. Not that I stan any of these people, but like, you know what I mean? Anyways, so like Ace is an interesting character, if you will. Okay, the relationship I find the most confusing is Huda and Jeremiah. Because I really thought that he was gonna like call it quits when she mentioned, like when she finally told him she got a kid, and he didn't. Like they seemed, I'm like, okay, wow, he really likes her, because if he was hesitant at all, that would be a great out. Like respectfully, you could be like, hey, that's great, and I really like you. I just don't know if I'm at a point in my life where I'm ready to be a stepfather. I think that is like a very reasonable out. Is like, hey, you seem great. I really like you, but like respectfully, I think you need somebody in your life who is like super down for this. I'm not. When he didn't, and they still kept going strong, I was like, okay, he really likes her. But now it seems like he's kind of like acting weird, or maybe she's pulling away. I don't really know. I don't feel like they're gonna last, and I find it confusing because I'm like, that would have been a good out. But it feels like now she's kind of like pushing and prodding, and she's like, oh, you want to explore other connections. I know you want to explore other connections. It's like, does he, like, he had a very easy out and he didn't take it. I think it's worse if he was like, no, I'm never going to leave you. Like, it's us till the end. And then like she leaves him, or they break up, or they just naturally fizzle out. And like, then he wants to pursue something else. Or like maybe somebody just comes in and he wants to pursue something else. And he's like, fuck, but I told her I would never leave. Like, I think it's better to keep your options open this early in the game, because the reality of the situation is the point of Love Island is that you were meant to explore many different connections. And what if they bring somebody there later who you just vibe with better? like, it sucks when you really like somebody and then they like somebody more. But at the end of the day, if somebody likes somebody else more, then they weren't meant for you, you know? So it's like, I don't know. I would rather somebody be like honest and be like, hey, like, I barely know you. We're getting to know each other. Right now, I'm not interested in anybody else, but I don't know. But she like took that to me like, oh, you want to talk to other people? And it was like, girl, calm the fuck down. Calm the fuck down. I'm sorry. And like, it was annoying to me. It was annoying to me. I'm like, I don't really know. And then he is now like, I don't like the way you talk to me, like I'm your kid or your dog or something. So like, the cliffhanger of the last episode 7, I believe, was like, they are not together. No, like, will they be together or not? Because he was like, I don't know. I don't understand the dynamic, and I don't really care for them. Like, personality-wise, are they entertaining? Maybe, but like, I'm not really drawn to either. My favorite people this season, I really like Shelley. Shelley was my favorite off the get-go, and she hasn't done anything to you know, take away from that. An interesting... The way they treat bisexuality on the show is interesting to me, because it's like a lot of the men acted like Shelley was just gonna like more adventurous because she's bisexual, and I'm like, that's not necessarily true. Like they expected her to have the highest body count, and somebody was like, you know, because she swings both ways. I'm like, that's a little weird. Not that there's anything wrong with the high body count, but like associating like bisexuality doesn't mean one way or the other. Anyways, and she didn't even have the highest body count, which again, it wouldn't matter to me personally. I hate the questions about body count because it's like, I don't care. I don't like to know. I find that to be a weird question. I get why they do it on these games. It's like, I mean, I actually don't. I wish that we could live in a world, and I would prefer this, if like they got rid of that. Why do we need to talk about people's body counts? Who cares? I don't care. I don't want to know. I don't. Like, if people want to share, that's great, but I also just feel like it's this weird thing where you're like then defining people by numbers, and it's like, it really doesn't matter. I don't care. So it's like weird that then, like, is that supposed to shape the way I view people? Because it doesn't, and I don't want it to. So that's how I feel. But Shelley's my favorite. Like, I find her funny. Alandria, I also find really funny. Ace, I find funny. Austin, I don't like him because I know he's a Trump supporter. I do find him funny on the show. I wish I didn't, but I do find him funny. Will I be happy when he leaves? Yes, but I do find him funny. The new girl that came in, I don't remember her name, like the new bombshell. I don't vibe with her. Like, the thing is, in her Ace, like, she like paired up with Ace, but then he was like, don't call me babe. Like, that's weird. I barely know you. And she like obviously got mad, and then they had a falling out, and it was like, but it was weird, okay, because he was like very much like, I'm going to keep my options open. But then she took issue with the fact that he never said, oh, I've been pursuing a thing with Shelley. He just said that he was keeping his options open, and she would have wanted to know. And then she got mad at Shelley, and it was weird. I didn't like that. I don't really like her. Like, I'm fine whenever she leaves. I have nothing against her, but I don't really vibe with her. Other favorites, I really like Sierra. I think she needs somebody better than Nick. I don't like her with Nick. When she kissed Shelley, I was like, okay, they should be gay together. Fuck the men. Shelley right now is like not... Shelley's with Austin, like coupled up with Austin, but she and Ace have been having like a banter, if you will, which I think her name's Amaya, which Amaya took issue with. I like Sierra. Sierra was a bombshell, and Nick was with somebody named Bella A. Like, her name was Bella-A. I hated that. Like, I'm sorry, girl. That's a stupid name. Your name's Belle or Bella. Bella, but it's like Belle-A. What the fuck does that mean? Also, like, is that on your birth certificate? Is your last name A? Do you have a middle name that with the first initial A, so it's like Bella A? But I'm pretty sure they just called her Bella. I don't understand. Like, is that on your birth certificate? Is your name Isabella? How did you pick that nickname? It makes no sense to me, and I don't like it. She went home. She had an interesting gameplay where she didn't kiss any of them off the bat. She was which, like, I don't really care. I really don't care about stuff like that. Like, I know that kissing, I think the hard part for me watching Love Island is that, like, I don't really care about, like, I know that kissing and the, like, you know, all of that is, like, important in the gameplay. So, like, rejecting a kiss in that moment can, like, be, and obviously it didn't last for very long because none of the other people were really on that same wavelength. Like, it just didn't feel like she was supposed to be on the show. Like, it feels like very, like, Love Island is very much like you kiss who you kiss, and, like, you're open to it, and, like, kissing is part of the games and part of, like, the last episode 7, they did, like, a coin. Maybe it was 8. I think it was 7. I don't know. the last episode that aired Tuesday night. I'm recording this Wednesday. I think the next episode is Thursday. If there's an episode tonight, then by the time this comes out, the last episode I watched of Love Island season 7 was the one that aired Tuesday the 10th. Okay, so I don't know anything that happened after. So if you're listening to this after the fact, and since things have aired since, I haven't watched them. So please, that is the timeline where I'm at. Anyways, so in the last episode, there was like a competition where you like flip a coin and it either lands on kiss or pie. So you either kiss the person or you pie them. Like kissing is very much part of the game. So I understand, like, I don't know. I don't feel like she was compatible with anybody there. Do I think maybe there's a world on Love Island where they pair two people who are kind of like not super intimacy facing forward and they connect in it and it lasts them a long time? Maybe. I don't know. I've never seen the show. I don't know the dynamics of like how rare this is, how common it is. I really don't know. So like, I don't know. Sorry, one of my foster kittens was trying to bite my cable. She's here now. Can you hear her? She's not purring or meowing, so you probably can't hear her. She's a sweetheart, but she is trying to bite my cables. So anyways, like maybe there's a world, again, this is my first season. I'm very unfamiliar to like the lore, the structure, the gameplay. I don't really know. I'm just figuring it out as I go. You couple up, and in theory, you could be coupled up until the end. So maybe there's a world where that works and you find somebody and you couple up and then you don't have to really play into like that physical aspect of it. And I don't really know necessarily if her being closed off to it is what ended up hurting her, but I don't think it helped. I don't think it helped because the people who aren't, there are a few people who are more like solid in their couples, like Jeremiah and Huda, but then there are people like Shelly who are like, she's coupled up with Austin, but she's open. She's open to other people. Like her and Ace have a like, will they, won't they going on right now. So I think it's like, I do think you can like close off and couple up. And maybe if she had found somebody who was like similar to her, I just feel like they probably don't cast many people like that, or the show. But I like it so far. I love Ariana Madix. She's not there enough. The guy, the British guy, whatever his name is, who does all the like jokes, I hate him. They should just have Ariana be the sole, like she should write jokes. She should narrate them. He's not funny. I don't enjoy him. Why is he there? I like that it's airing in real time. Like I really love that about this format of reality TV. Who else do I like and do I not like? Okay, briefly, I want to talk about Ulissa, who she got written out of the show, or not written out of the show, but like she's not there anymore, which is fine. Like I don't really care, but like it's very interesting. Anyways, okay. Again, I don't understand the structure of the show, but for some reason, I thought the bombshells were like a bigger deal. But I guess it's like anytime somebody comes in, it's like a brand new bombshell has entered the villa. I guess in my mind, I think I confused the bombshells with like the idea of Casa Amor. But I guess Casa Amor, they bring in a bunch of new bombshells and then you're sent off. Also, apparently, I didn't know this. There's some kind of movie night where they show them. I'm excited to watch that. I wish Big Brother had that where they were like, this is what this person said. That would be fun. I wish they did that. They don't do that on Big Brother. I guess it would mess up the gameplay because then you would never know what's going to be shown on game night. So then you couldn't say things. But I really like Shelly. I think she's one of my favorites. Alondria, I find really interesting. She has a thing with a guy named Taylor, who I don't understand the Taylor Alondria dynamic because she doesn't seem that into him, to be honest. And it broke that he allegedly has a girlfriend. So maybe that's why. But like they're not really. They like I feel like they seem like you're good on paper, but I feel like either one is open. Maybe him not so much because again he has a girlfriend, so maybe that's part of his hesitation. But I feel like she is just open to somebody else coming on and her having a better connection. I hope so because I don't really like her with Taylor, not just because he has a girlfriend. I just like they don't have the passion, they don't have the chemistry, they don't seem to like actually really like each other that much. With peace and love, Huda I already talked about, Ace I already talked about, Nick. I don't really like him. Sierra deserves better. He's like fine. He's fine. But I don't really care about him. Taylor has a girlfriend. Jeremiah, again, confusing to me because it's like, do you actually like Huda? I honestly, maybe if he liked somebody who is there more, he'd be more like, okay, I'm done. But maybe he didn't want to cut it off when he did because he didn't want to lose like a couple, especially because none of the girls would probably couple up with him if he ended things with, like, maybe it was a strategic move. Like, maybe if he had somebody to go to, he would have taken that as an out, but he didn't. So he, like, strategically didn't want to leave Huda because then he wouldn't have anybody. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. I'm like, why wouldn't he leave? But like, who does he have to couple up with? Like, I don't know. Maybe that's it. I don't know how much he likes her. I don't feel like they're gonna last. Like, even if I don't feel like they're gonna last. Austin, I already talked about. He's a Trump supporter. Don't really care about him. Then Charlie. I haven't mentioned Charlie at all. He's like British. He was a bombshell. He's just there. He really doesn't provide much. He's coupled up with another bombshell who entered the villa after him, who they've kind of been keeping to their own, and they really give nothing. I don't remember her name. Sierra, one of my favorites, love her. Hannah and I forgot his name now. Hannah and Charlie, they're coupled up, and so far they're giving us nothing, but they seem happy together, so I'm happy for them. And then Amaya, who I talked about, she's not super interesting to me. Like, the thing is, she was interesting the first night, but then her thing with Ace bothered me because I'm like, my foster kitten who I brought on my bed found the toy that I was keeping here. I moved it from her, sorry. I'm almost done, I promise. So, like, that really bothered me because it was like, he did tell you that he was keeping his options open. You were just upset that he didn't say who. The thing is, it's not like he is like very, like, Shelly also is keeping her options open because she has also a connection with Austin. So it's not like just let things play out. It's not like if he couples up with her, you'll be left with nobody. I guess maybe you don't like Austin, but it's like, I don't know. The way that then she came to Shelly and she was like, you should have told me that you have a connection with Ace. I didn't like that. It's like, why? You barely know each other. She's not coupled up with Ace or really has that solid of a connection. It's not like they have like a thing where it's like we like each other and we're like, but it's not, I don't know. To me, it's not the same as like something she needs to disclose to Amaya. I don't think so, especially because it's not like, maybe if Ace was telling her like we're closed off, but then he was still telling Shelly he wanted to pursue things with Shelly and Shelly wasn't telling Amaya, maybe then I'd understand, but it's like literally not like that at all, so I don't understand the reservation she has. But I'm enjoying the season so far. Ariana Madix brings me so much joy to see her hosting Love Island. I really like Shelly. I don't really want her to date Ace, and I also really don't want her to date Austin. So I hope a bombshell enters the villa and she pairs up with them. Same with Sierra. I think I'm having a hard time because I don't know if I'm gonna like any of the men that they bring on enough for the girls. Like, I don't know. Maybe I will. But, like, there are men on the season who I feel indifferent to. Like, Jeremiah, I could go either way. I don't hate him. He's fine. Charlie, he's fine. He seems like a nice guy. I have nothing against Charlie. So, like, hopefully they bring in somebody like that who I'm, like, indifferent towards. But also maybe we just haven't seen enough of Charlie. And if they did something, I would hate him. Like, I don't know. I've never seen Love Island, so I don't know. I don't know because, like, I really don't know. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'll check in next week briefly about my thoughts. Again, I'm not doing a weekly recap, like, because there are a lot of episodes every week, but I'll touch in next week and maybe I'll dive a bit deeper because I talked about Ginny and Georgia for most of this, and I don't know how long I've been recording because I took a break, so, like, I've lost all of the timing, but the episode should be about an hour. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll touch in next week about my thoughts on the next week of Love Island and any other shows that I have to talk about. Thanks so much for tuning in. Do you hear my foster kitten? I don't think you can. Anyways, thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Sorry if it was all over the place. I was in such a good groove and then I lost my train of thought, and like the rest of the episode I don't feel like was as good as the first half, but hopefully it was interesting nonetheless. Please share your thoughts down below on Ginny Georgia Season 3 or Love Island. If you want to hear my thoughts specifically on any person or dynamic or something that happened in Love Island or Ginny and Georgia that I didn't talk about, let me know and I'll maybe do a follow-up briefly next week. But Yellow Jackets deep dive coming soon. I swear by the end of the month is my goal. Maybe early July, but I think I should be able to get it by the end of the month. So thanks a lot for tuning in. Means a lot. Hope you have a great week. Follow me wherever you listen to podcasts. My social media is linked down below. You can contact me there if you have any requests, feedback, comments, concerns. My foster kittens are not yet available for adoption, but they will be when they reach 2 pounds. So if you're interested in that, I do post about them on my TikTok. I do post about them on my TikTok specifically. So anyways, thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great week. You'll hear from me around like next Wednesday or Thursday. This episode's probably going out Thursday, hopefully early Thursday, but Thursday nonetheless because life got busy. Oh my God, I forgot to mention this. I wanted to say at the beginning before I got started, but I'm so sorry. So I'll end here. I live in Los Angeles. Everything that's happening in the city, fuck ICE, if that wasn't clear by my general demeanor, fuck ICE. I don't have much of a platform, but I wanted to say that at the beginning, and I'm really sorry I didn't, but like, I love this city. I love immigrants. I am one. And who gives a fuck if people are undocumented? I don't. If there's one thing I've learned in my experience of being a documented immigrant, of being somebody who had a visa and then a green card and then went through the nationalization process, is that as much as it's like effort and money's a huge one that goes into everything and doing it quote unquote the right way. At the end of the day, it's just a status. I am no more part of my community, no more a productive member of society today than I was when I just had a green card. I worked the same amount. Not that being a not that you have to like work to be, but like my point is my role in this society, who I am as a human being, did not change overnight. Like the only thing that's changed is like now I can vote and now I can serve jury duty without being excused, which I did get called to. I'm serving jury duty next month. But like my point is who I am as a person, who I am in my daily life, and the way I interact with the community, with the people I like. Who I am did not change when I became a citizen. Who people are in their communities, the way the community is, it doesn't change when you're documented or you're undocumented. So to me, I just really want to like emphasize that human beings are human beings, regardless of their status in this country. And I think we should treat everybody like they're human beings, because they are. And that's just my stance. Like, I think if there's anything I've learned is that I'm no more a member of my community. I'm a member of my community in different ways now that I have certain responsibilities and like abilities to do things as a citizen that I didn't before I was a citizen. But my point is my day-to-day life, the way I interact with people, the way I give to my community, the way I show up for my community, it hasn't changed. And all that's made clear to me is that it really is just, it's not who people are. It's not the ways they show up, the way that's not what your humanity is. You're the same person whether you're a citizen or not, whether you were born here or not. And it's like it shapes who you are. Obviously lived experience is extremely important, and like it's a different experience. But my point is who you are in your community is not defined by that. And it's really, really like disgusting to me the way people like define people by things like that. And our communities in this city and in this county are so beautiful because of everybody. Undocumented people are a huge part of that. So I just like, it breaks my heart. I hate ICE, and I'm so sorry for not mentioning it sooner. I hope you have a great week. No human being is illegal on stolen land. Have a great week.